Good evening. Welcome to another edition of Mi Gente on Air. I'm so happy to have you here tonight with us as we talk about something that is really important during the December holiday season, and that is tamales. As you know, it's tamale season, and we're gearing up at the Union Cívica Mexicana as well as in the community for the 12th annual Tamale Taste Off. So I hope you will join me in the room as we talk with one of our main advocate sponsors, Bridget Stefalino, as well as one of the tamale vendors that's participating in the contest. So if you've got questions or concerns, or you just want to leave a comment, please do so because we always want to include you because this is Mi Gente on Air, my people. And so we want to make sure that the public is involved as well with this show. So we'll be starting in just a few moments for Mi Gente on Air.
Welcome to Mi Gente on Air on 100.5 and 790 News Radio WSGW and online WSGW.com. Now, here is your host, Larry Rodarte.
Hello. Welcome to another edition of Mi Gente on Air, where we highlight Latino culture, of course, and it's December. And we have quite a warm December so far with very little snow. And in the Saginaw community, the annual novena to Our Lady of Guadalupe has started. Christmas with Angels is in full swing with nearly $25,000 raised. And guess what? It's tamale season. And tonight we're going to highlight the upcoming Tamale Taste Off in Saginaw. Now, what community does this? Saginaw, of course. We've got it going on. I know of no other community that brings forth tamale makers to vie for the rights of who makes the best tamales in the community. Since 2009, La Unión Cívica Mexicana has hosted this event, first at their hall on the north side of town, and then about 5 years ago, we moved it to the township. It has been a popular event that in 2019, the last time we had it, it drew over 1,000 people. And this year, it's being held at New Val Catholic High School at 2555 Weineke Road. And sometimes it's difficult to find a venue to hold this unique event, but we have a strong advocate for the Taste Off, and her name is Bridget Stefalino from Jolt Credit Union. She has secured our venue, so help me welcome Bridget to the show from her home. Hello, Bridget.
Hola. How are you, Larry?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Very well. Very well. Thank you.
Well, you look like you have a festive background there. You're in your
Yeah.
home. You've got poinsettias and Christmas trees. Where are your tamales?
Uh, they're at Nouvel. They're not quite there yet.
Yeah, well, Bridget has been such an advocate for this tamale taste off. At times when we weren't sure we were going to have the event, it was Bridget who has been its greatest cheerleader and has brought it forth to the community. So I want everybody to know a little bit more about who Bridget Luby is, Staffolino, right? She just got married a couple of years back now. But Bridget, tell the community, my audience, who is Bridget Luby Staffolino?
All right. Okay. So I am the Vice President of Community Affairs for Jolt Credit Union. I born and raised in Saginaw. Really love my community, love Saginaw. And I work for an organization that, makes sure that it weaves itself into the community as well. I absolutely adore Mi Gente and Larry and the Union Civica. I love what you do for our community. I love what you do for the people that are part of your community as well. It enriches, what Saginaw is too. I love being involved with community events that will enrich our lives. And also I think this is really important too, is expose people to, the Hispanic culture and how rich and vibrant it is and how important it is in our community.
See what I mean by when I say she's the greatest cheerleader? Bridget has been a good friend to our community, and She works, as she said, vice president there at Jolt Credit Union. And Jolt Credit Union, if those of you who may not know, used to be Catholic Federal Credit Union. And there's a long history that dates back to St. Joseph Catholic Church on 6th Street with the Catholic Federal Credit Union way back in the day when it started. And they decided to change the name to Jolt Credit Union a couple of years. How long has it been, Bridget?
Larry, it's been 2019 when we changed officially, June 2019.
Okay, so just before the pandemic, and
exactly.
and as many people know, the taste off has not happened since 2019. So it's been 3 years since we've had this taste off. And I gotta say, there seems to be a real boom in interest for the tamale taste off this year. And I don't know if it's because we haven't had it in 3 years, or if that's attributed to the idea that there's such a upswing in the love for Mexican foods. I think it's a combination of both. But I can tell you that we have about 12 vendors vying for best tamale makers in the Great Lakes Bay region. So we're going to ask Bridget here, why do you get involved with this tamale taste off in the first place?
Well, I remember you coming into my office and we were talking about, trying to increase, the number of people that come to the tamale taste off, because I thought it was so cool. And I'm like, how many people come to it? And I think you said about 200, a little over 200, Larry. Is that about right?
Yeah, in the beginning, I think we may have had maybe 100 people. And then as the years went on there at the Civica location, we filled it up to capacity, which is 300 people.
Okay. Yeah. And I just said, I really think that you have to change the venue, kind of be in the center of our community, where people will go to, if it's on a Sunday, people just have a problem with getting in the car and going, what is it, 10 minutes. And so I said, let me see who I can talk to about possibly having it at a centrally located area. And it ended up being Nouvelle Catholic Central Elementary, right behind St. Thomas. And it was really great because you had church on Sunday, and when church let out, you had quite a bit of people. But I just thought, what a great opportunity to really bring that really fun festival to more people. And Larry, I think you're right. I think people you guys haven't had the event. I think people really like the Mexican food. But I really, really think that there is like a revitalized love for the Hispanic community, because it's been tough, over the years, you know what I mean? And so I think you're seeing a lot of people, that are supporting the Hispanic community, want to celebrate it and have a lot of fun and purchase tamales too.
Nicely said. And when we have had difficulty finding a venue, it was Bridget that came up with, like she mentioned, we need to have it more centralized within the community. And because of Catholic Federal Credit Union's affiliation, with the Diocese of Saginaw, she really made it happen at Nouvelle. I think it was called something else before, but now it's Nouvelle Catholic Elementary, St. Thomas Aquinas School. And this year, when we announced the Tamale Taste Off, that we were coming back, the return of the Tamale Taste Off, we didn't have a venue. And I said, Bridget, what are we going to do? I knew she wanted to be involved, but I just said, what are we going to do? And she got on the phone and she made it happen for the high school. And in 2017, believe it or not, that's the last time when we were at that high school, the big gymnasium, which really was nice because it fit better. I think at the elementary, we grew out of that space as well. And now we're at Nouvelle High School Gymnasium, and we really fit a nice crowd there. And like I said, we've got about 12 vendors participating, as well as, a number of different bazaar vendors with merchandise. So I think it's going to be pretty packed.
Yep, which is excellent, excellent. And just really have to give a shout out to the principal at Nouvelle. When I asked him, hey, would you guys consider having the tamale taste off in the gym? He was like absolutely wanting, to get to know the community more, get to know what Union Civica is, and I told him, I said, this money, goes towards scholarships and sending kids to school, and you've had students going to college that was the first generation college too, and how cool is that you're able to help them do that.
Yeah, and it's nice that we just picked our new queen for 2022-2023, Jayla Flores. She is the Unión Cívica Mexicana Queen, and we will be giving her a $1,000 scholarship to go towards her education as well. I want to thank also Bishop Robert Gross, because he made the Tamale Taste Off happen in 2019 when we really didn't know if we were going to go through with having the taste off, because, as I said, sometimes it's difficult to find a venue. And he was the new bishop at the time, and he came in, and I saw him at the novena at St. Anthony's Parish over on Washington, and I sat down right before him, and I seized that moment, that opportunity when I could ask him if we could utilize the Nouvelle Elementary School, and he said yes, absolutely. And so it was really nice, and I want to just acknowledge that with him, because sometimes you don't always have the ear of our bishop. Right. And I know, Bridget, you've got a great relationship with the Diocese of Saginaw, and you're part of the Bishop's Breakfast that you go to on Fridays every month. And I'm a part of that as well. And so, it's really important that we're a part of that meeting and the community at large, and bringing that awareness, like you said, about the Hispanic culture. And you're right. I think that, we've had hard knocks in the last couple of years, and we're coming back. We're coming back, and we're coming back just like the return of the Tamale Taste Off. And I want to mention Bridget Angela Blanco is here in the room. She's saying, hi, Miss Bridget Luby Staffolino. You are a true blessing to our La Unión Cívica Mexicana family. Thank you. So that's from the president of the Unión Cívica Mexicana, Angela Blanco. Also, what is it that you know about tamales and the rich traditions? Bridget, I don't want to put you on the spot, but tell me about, as somebody who is a kind of on the outside in regard to this, what do you see with the traditions and the tamale vendors that you see at this event?
It's tradition, it's family, it's pride, um it's I love hearing about it. Ann Recksteiner, who's our CEO at Joel Credit Union, she and her family every year they make tamales. In fact, she put something on Facebook, and I said, Ann, are you going to enter the tamale taste off? She said, no, not yet, not yet. But that's what I know about it is. It is a recipe. A lot of times it is handed down from generation to generation to generation. And it's a gift, and you end up giving it as gifts as well as celebrating it. And so I love that. I love that. And there really is pride. And
Yes.
I mean, there is, and you see it when you go around and you're talking to the vendors, and they're made a little bit different. People make them a little different, and that's a really cool thing about it is it's a taste of their culture, their family, heritage, and that's what makes it really awesome, because everybody has a different. I like this, and they're all good, but something that you taste might remind you of when you were growing up and had it at your grandparents.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I remember being 5 years of age and helping my mother make tamales in the house. And it was quite a process. Dad would come in from outside, and he would use his strong arms, to mend the masa. And, he did it by hand. And though in those days, we're talking the 70s, and a lot of Mexican families at that time utilized pig head to make tamales. They actually boiled the pig head, and they utilized that as the meat. And I think they've kind of gotten away from that, and they use the pork butt now. But I know that my father, he really liked it. When they use the pig head for the tamales, and you've got chicken tamales, you got vegan tamales today, you got cheese only tamales. There's all kinds of different
Yeah.
tamales, and it's really like you said, pride. And I am making them for the Union Civica Mexicana. We're doing about 100 dozen, although it's a lot of work. It's a lot of fun too, and I actually miss the process sometimes. But I actually can go into a kitchen now, and I don't second guess myself. I just get right to work, and I can make a really good tamal. And I know that there are people out there as well that can do that. And one of the things I want to mention is that this year we have a number of individual tamale makers that may be involved with food trucks, or they're selling them as well. They're going into business. We've even got Flint vendors who are coming in this year, as well as from Bay City. We even had somebody who was from Kalamazoo, but she canceled today because she says it was just too far, and I had to agree for her. But it's really amazing how this thing has spread outside of our region as well. And I want to give props to Saginaw, because what other community does this? That's what I was saying, in my opening. I was like, what other community does a tamale taste off at the level that we're doing here? So, hats off to Saginaw. And I want to ask you, what does Alan Watson, your boss over there at the credit union, what does he have to say? Or even, maybe the administration at Jolt Credit Union?
They love it. When I said that, we were going to be a part of Alan, just, I said, hey, Larry approached us about, sponsoring. He said, yeah, yeah. He really liked the idea. Of course, he's a big fan of yours, Larry. And he loves what you do in the community and how you support Jolt. And we appreciate that as well. No,
Yeah.
he really likes it. Our board of directors, they are incredibly supportive of, what we do in the community. In fact, I always say it starts at the top and it comes down. And they love our community, they love our members, they love our staff, and they show it. They show it every day. Very supportive, and our staff love it as well. We have quite a few people that are excited to volunteer at the Tamale Taste Off. And I have to tell you this, we're getting a lot of members at our Euclid office in Bay City wanting to know more information about the Tamale Taste Off, and all that other kind of information. So yeah, we have it on our signs all over. So yeah, we send it out to our 27,000 members, so
Wow.
we support it very
Well,
much.
thank you so much. Thank you. And like I said, one of our vendors that's participating is Salma Perez, and she's going to be one of our guests later on the show here today, and she's going to talk about the excitement of being an actual vendor for the Taste Off. In her business, it's called Los Tamales de Mi Mamá, and her son, her son's a chef out in Midland at a restaurant, and they're getting involved with the Taste Off as well. So it's really grown from just simply the restaurants that we have had, to individuals, as well as outside of Saginaw vendors as well. So I want to mention that in 2009 we started the Tamale Taste Off, and the very first winners of the Tamale Taste Off was Los Estrellas de Norte Bakery over there in Saginaw. And then the following year in 2010, it was El Rancho Grande restaurant. And in 2011, El Mexicano, which is Coco Loco restaurant now. And then 2012, we had Tino's Tamales. They were the winners, and they won a few times in 2013 and in 2014. And then I lost track of who actually won, but this was the tamale trophy, if you will, or plaque that they would put up in their businesses for the bragging rights of having the best tamales in the area. Now, I have to mention that we have a sponsor of a trophy, which is going to be made. It's Labadee, our good friends over at Labadee, and we're going to have a trophy that is given to the best tamale makers, as well as a $250 prize, because as we know, it's quite expensive to
Yeah.
make
Yeah.
these tamales. And the way it works is that we ask each vendor who's participating to make 30 to 35 tamales that they will give as taste samples for those that are coming in and having ballots and voting. And so they have to break up a tamale. They can't just give a full tamale to each person because they're going to probably need 50 dozen then. But as you know, they break it down into 3 or 4 pieces, and that is what is given to each participant that has a ballot in hand. And then they're going to sit down, taste each one, which it could be 10 to 12 different vendors this year. So you're going to be tasting a lot of tamales there at the Tamale Taste Off. And then we have what we call the People's Choice Award, which is the ballot ones that is voted by each of the persons participating. And then we also have a celebrity judge where the judges that we're going to pick, celebrities, they don't know whose tamales they're tasting. They're basing it simply on taste. And so we've got 2 winners to the People's Choice Award as well as the Celebrity Judges Award for Best Tamale Makers. Bridget, what else would you want to add in regard to Jolt's involvement as well as your involvement? Because it means a lot to us. It really means a lot to the Union Cívica Mexicana. I know to our members. You won the Frida Award because of your participation a few years back, but it's really important for us to have those types of sponsors that believe in the work that we do.
Well, I've said this time and time again, how it's really hard not to. I just have a special bond with your community. Especially, St. Joe's. My father graduated from St. Joe's, went to, church at St. Joe's. When I started my position, Larry, you were one of my first connections. And, I got to learn what the Union Civica does and what you guys stand for. And I, started to be more involved with you through the Cinco de Mayo. And I saw your love for your community. So you had a lot to do with it, a lot to do with it. And, I tell people all the time that being in my position, you meet a lot of people. And there are only, a handful that, you end up like really clicking with and become lifelong friends. And you're one of them. And my life has been enriched. And because of that, Jolt's life has been enriched and our community has been enriched. It's nonstop for you. You are constantly going. I don't know how you do it. You're constantly giving yourself, you're constantly promoting, the Union Civica, the Hispanic culture. You are just you are an icon in our community. And, big props to you for winning the All Area Arts Award too. So, and that just made my day. You're one of my closest friends and I love you. And I'm very lucky to be associated with Union Civic.
Bridget Luby, you are gonna go far in life. No, that's a comment that one of my guests said earlier this year. Somebody was giving her compliments, and I was just like, "Oh, that's a good line to say. You're gonna go far in life." But
I love
Johnny Estrada, who's a member of the Civica, he's helping over at the Taste Off this year. He says, "I remember watching my grandmother using the metate, a grindstone, to grind the corn in chiles. That is part of the culture that many of the 3rd and 4th generation people are not aware of." And that's so true because I've heard stories of my great grandmother Cecilia from Michoacan. She would get on her hands and knees and she would take that stone and she would grind that corn on the metate. That's what they call it. It's a long slab of stone. And they would have to take the corn from, dried corn from the corn that was grown in the summer, and they would actually grind that down, and that's how they would make their base of their masa. So it's really, that, thank God we don't have to do that nowadays. Now, a lot of our community, the tamale makers, they go to Vargas Tortillas and they buy their masa already kind of pre-made there, and then they doctor it up. Any last words, Bridget, as we say goodbye to you and thank you for coming on the show. You got 1 minute.
Only one? Oh my God, I was thinking I had another 20. Anyway, I'm kidding. Just want to invite everybody to come out. It is Sunday, the 18th. This is a great opportunity. Have fun. You're going to have other vendors there as well. And Jolt Credit Union is going to be there. We're going to be giving away a fun basket full of great stuff to celebrate the holidays. And I wish the Tamale Taste Off all the success. I want to see a lot of people.
Well, thank you so much, Bridget Luby Staffolino, such a good friend to our Hispanic community. And she's a great advocate for Saginaw in general over there at Jolt Credit Union. And we thank you so much for being with us today. And always a pleasure, Bridget, to see you. And we've got to connect, sometime before Christmas, before the taste off, so that, we can celebrate the coming back of the Tamale Taste Off as well as just life, right?
Sounds like a great plan. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Okay, we'll talk to you later. We'll see you
Adios.
soon. And we'll be right back at Mi Gente on Air.
You're listening to Mi Gente on Air on WSGW.
Okay, we're back in the live stream, and thanks so much again to Bridget Staffolino, who's such a great friend to our community. I know they also sponsored the St. Joe's Festival this year and a number of different events in our community. It's so important to have advocates like that when you're putting on this type of an event, because we can't do it alone, right? And so we thank Jolt Credit Union. We got to give them all the love that they deserve, because they've been with us throughout the many years that we have done this Tamale Taste Off. It's been 12 years, believe it or not, and had the pandemic, and it actually would be the 14th annual Tamale Taste Off, I'm sure. So we're going to go back into the show, and we are having a little bit of technical difficulties with our next guest, but she's going to come in via the phone, I think a phone call. So stay with us, and please ask questions and leave comments, because it adds to the part of the show when sometimes I get lost for words, okay? And that does happen, right? All right, so we're coming back to Mi Gente on Air.
This is Mi Gente on Air on WSGW.
Hola, hola. Bienvenidos. Welcome back, everybody, to Mi Gente on Air. Thank you so much for joining me on this special edition where we talk about the 12th annual Tamale Taste Off, and it is our love and passion, this great food that we have within our community as well. And so we have one of the vendors that's going to be participating, and as I said earlier, we've got about 12 vendors who are participating, and that's really amazing, because it really shows you the interest of this taste off. And as many years, TNT Authentic Mexican Cuisine is going to be participating. Toyo Rosas and his tamales. He's been participating a number of years. He's, I think, the one since he has been in business with TNT is going to be involved. We've got Cruz Kitchen. They won the Tamale Taste Off a few years ago. I think it was in 2018 or 2017 when we were over there at the high school. We've also got, of course, the Union Civica Mexicana. We're going to be participating with our tamales as well. And we got Johnny's Tamales. Brenda Yerlis, she's got her father's recipe. I believe that's what it is. And they're in. She called me. She's real excited about it. We've also got individuals in the community like Berta Davila. She's making her delicious tamales, and Figueroa Tamales, D. Garcia Tamales. And I know many of you probably know a lot of these individuals, or you are buying tamales already, because like I said, it is tamale season. And we've also got Dan and Elena Ortiz Tamales. They're going to be in the taste off as well. And then we got vendors from the Flint area, Velasquez Tamales, they said they want to be involved, as well as the Tamale Spot. They're going to be participating. These individuals have food trucks out there in the Flint area, and they're going to be participating. And then our guest that we have waiting in the wings, I believe, her name is Selma Perez. And she's got Los Tamales de mi Mamá from Bay City. Welcome to the show. Selma, are you there? Hello.
Yes, I'm here.
Great.
I'm here.
Oh,
Having a little technical problem, but I'm here.
all right. Well, thank you so much for being persistent to be in the show and talk with us a little bit about your participation as a vendor, because it's really exciting to hear that somebody's coming in from the Bay City area as well. So tell me, Selma, a little bit about who you are, because I know you got quite a story. You lived in Bay City, Saginaw, and then you moved to Colorado, and now you're back. So tell us a little bit about you and your family history here.
Yes, I was originally born and raised in Bay City, and then I moved to Denver to take care of my parents. And I also have my son sitting next to me, which you started coming to visit them, and they were like, "Mom, people want to buy tamales. Can you make some tamales to sell?" And we started out with like 6 dozen, and that was like 6 years ago. And we have expanded the amount of dozens that we are now making, anywhere from 30 to 50 dozen a week we've been doing during this season for the Christmas holidays.
Well, that's really a lot. And for him to just say, "Mom, can you make tamales?" I mean, I have family members too that, can you give us 20 tamales or whatever? It's not that easy, is it?
No, it's not. And we make our tamales from scratch. It's total scratch. We have no any kind of powder ingredients at all. So it is a lot of work. We put all of our love into it. And I think that's why we entered the contest, was because we love what we're doing and we want to share our recipe for other families to have it on their table for the holidays, for the Thanksgiving. We sold like 50 dozen 2 days before Thanksgiving. And it's just, we want to share what we have with the community.
So when you say that you're not making from scratch, I think
No,
you're
we are making from
I mean, you are making from scratch, yeah, and that includes utilizing the chili pods rather than the powders, as you said. So tell me, if you can, and you don't have to because I know it's sharing part of your recipe, but what chilies do you actually use?
We use the dry chili pods. I have my son sitting right here next to me, and maybe he can explain.
What's your son's name?
His name is Ismael Herrera.
All right, Ismael, tell me about your secret recipe.
And the only reason I'm putting him to talk is that he's the one that actually makes the sauce.
All right.
So I usually take part in making the chiles. We use a variety of different pods. So there's 5 of them.
Wow.
There's 5 different pods. We're not going to tell you exactly what those pods are, because that is part of the flavor profile and, the amount that's going in there. So that's important for us. But, just boiling those pods and pureeing them and putting them through that nice colander to make sure you have a nice chile. That really is the key to a great tamale. All the flavor comes from that. Especially when you're talking about, your masa. Like you said, a lot of people doctor up bought masa. We're making our masa here, from our hands and doing that. So me being in the culinary profession for, 18 years, being able to spend the time with my mom making tamales and, putting that extra love into something that we're doing and sharing with the community. That's really why we're here right now talking to you. So we're excited about being able to step into the little competition and see if we can measure up to some of the other restaurants that have been doing it for some years now.
Well, that's a beautiful story, and it reminds me, of my mother. Of course, my mother was Anita Diaz Rodarte, and she's been gone for about 20 years. And I know that my family, her sister, my sisters. We all got together right after mom passed away, and that was the thing that brought us, together to remember her at that time when we were grieving so hard. And it's crazy for me to think of how we would second guess everything that we were doing. We would say, okay, how did mom do this? How did, and now today I can walk into a kitchen and actually, make the tamales. And I also use the pods. I use chili ancho and chili guajillo. And I'm not going to tell any more of my secret recipe, but it's, really the love for the culture of making tamales and what that means. And we're talking about, a tradition that dates way back to the Aztecs and the Mayans. And, I know that they're, in Guatemala, they utilize different leaves than what we use with the corn husk. But I'm sure there's many Latin American countries that are making tamales, and they're so good, right?
Yes, and I'm right there with you, Larry. We use two of the chilies that you mentioned, but in our recipe, we actually use 5 different chilies.
That is
So
amazing
I'm
to
only
me.
going with the 2 that you said, and we've got 3 other that we add to our recipe.
All right. So
So
when we get done with the show, I'm going to call you up and you're going to tell me those other 3 chilies. No.
okay.
So tell me, how did you, besides the fact that your son asked you to make these tamales, I know that, being in Colorado, tell us a little bit about what you experienced there with maybe tamales in that community.
There's a very big tamales. You can get them every day over there, and you can walk into any grocery store and they have them right on the shelves. My sister had a restaurant there, and they made them in her restaurant. She doesn't own the restaurant anymore, but I would help out there. And at first I was like, oh, I can do this for my kids since they were little. I could tell you a funny story. One year I made some tamales for Christmas on Christmas Eve, and we were supposed to eat them for lunch for Christmas Day. And all of a sudden, I told the kids, it's Christmas Eve, the tamales are done, they're steaming, we're eating them tomorrow morning. Well, they had 3 buddies of theirs, and I have 3 boys. So we had a total of 6 boys in the house. Do you know how many tamales were left in that pan when I got up in the morning? There wasn't hardly any. So from there, I just started thinking, well, tamales. A lot of people ask for tamales. I just want to share what I know about tamales. And there in Denver, like I said, you can walk in any store and just buy a dozen of tamales, half a dozen. Every restaurant carries them. And then I just, like my kids said, Mom, let's do something. Tamales are in big demand. And I can see where it is now today. It's just gone. I mean, we're getting orders left and right.
Yeah.
They'll come and say we want 2 orders, and all of a sudden they say, no, never mind. Can we get 2 more orders? So we're really enjoying what we're doing, and I hope that everybody that comes to the event taste our tamales and can agree that I think that it's a good recipe.
Oh, that's great to hear. Ismael, tell me, because you're a chef, you work for a restaurant, correct? And
Yes.
and
Yep.
and tell me, it's not a Mexican restaurant from what I understand, but have you seen an upswing, say, in the Mexican foods, whether it's, the taco trucks, or the tamales? Because you're in Bay City, but you work in Midland, correct? And tell me, do you see like, an upswing in the love for the Mexican culinary foods?
I think that you see a big change right now in what people are willing to accept as authentic Mexican food. I
Yeah.
think if you look back 5, 10 years ago, authentic Mexican food for people were processed hard shell tacos, canned enchilada sauce, canned beans, minute rice. Like, those are the things that people were willing to accept a few years ago. And I would say even in the recent past. But I think now, just the way the food industry's going, the way people are conscious on where they're spending their dollars, they want to find quality products when they walk somewhere. And I think that Mexican genre of the culinary in area. I think that that's definitely starting to step into a real limelight of what people who feel, people who want to be proud of their heritage can walk into a Mexican restaurant and say, it might not be mom's, but it's not Taco Bell. And it doesn't feel like that when I'm walking into those Mexican restaurants as much anymore. I actually would feel like spending some money on a Mexican restaurant rather than just walking in and being disappointed in just about, a majority of the things where it's not mom's and it doesn't really feel like anyone's putting any love into it.
Yeah, yeah. And I have to agree. I've noticed, in the last year, especially, and maybe the last 2 years, where there's been this shift, especially in the Great Lakes Bay region, from going from the hard shell Tex-Mex tacos that we were typically used to through the years, moving more to like the carne asada and the cilantro and the onion tacos that we have seen like down in Mexican Town in Detroit. And it's definitely more authentic. And I think that those that are involved in the restaurant businesses, they're having to make that shift as well. And I think it's all for the good because the food's much better. And so we all win, correct?
Yes.
Well, how do you feel about 12 vendors vying for the best making tamales? And Selma, I want to ask you this question because you and I talked about this the other day, and we talked about maybe it's not so much just about the competition, but maybe it's just, celebrating the love for tamales. Tell me a little bit what you're feeling.
That's how I feel. I feel that I spoke to a gentleman the other day that has his own restaurant, and we started talking about tamales, and he's like, if you have the love to do something, just go ahead and run with it. Because when you put that love in it, that's what makes the product go further, because you're doing it with an open heart and you just love to do it and share it with others.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm excited about going to this event, because I told my son, I'm excited because when I make my tamales and they walk out the door and I'm like, oh, I can't wait to hear the comments on them. And when I hear people come back and say, hey, those tamales were the best, we want some more. And I'm thinking, whoa, my heart gets enlightened by those comments because they were made with love. That recipe is a special recipe, and I want that person to enjoy what they've put on their table. So I think that if all of us go to this event sharing our tamales with love, we are all going to be happy to see smiles on people's faces.
Well, we have a number of people in the room that are making comments. So I just want to, read some of these. Dolores Vasquez says, it's time to unwrap some goodness with smiley faces emojis. And Cynthia Favela, she says, cannot wait to try all the tamales. She's excited. Val Blanco says, can't wait to see you there. And she's asking a question. She's saying, will tamale vendors be selling singles as well? Selma, what is your plans in your son in regard to your Los Tamales de Mi Mama? What is your plan for selling the tamales there as well?
We are planning on taking tamales to sell. And I understand there are some families that could be a single person, and they might say, we don't need a whole dozen. Can we do 6? Can we do 2? Can we do a few? And we're willing to share what we've taken in whatever amount that they would like to buy. That's
Okay.
what our plans are.
Nice. Now, I do want to mention when we started the Tamale Taste Off in 2009, I remember the vendors pretty much were selling the tamales for, I think, $7 a dozen in those days. And, with inflation and everything going up, I know that there's going to be uh, a much more expensive tamal. And I think what we're doing is we're leaving each of the vendors, they're making the decision as to what they're selling their tamales at. So I've seen where some have said they're going to sell them at $12 a dozen. I know the Union Civica Mexicana, we're going to be selling them for $15 a dozen. But I have also heard that there are individuals that are going to sell them for $20 a dozen. So I mean, it's going to be fluctuating I think, but what is your take on that as a tamale vendor?
On the pricing you're asking?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I think that, there's a lot of different factors too when it comes to what you're pricing your tamales at, just based on the size of them, the amount of work that goes into them. If somebody's selling tamales and they're using chili powder, it does take an entire element of the process out of those things. Being in the restaurant industry and working with raw products, the amount of time that's put into those products to produce something, the amount of effort that it takes, the extra sets of hands that are included in that, all those things are really factors on, what the value of that tamale is. And some people might put together a dozen tamales and that might look like, maybe a pound and a half, maybe. For us, typically a dozen of tamales looks closer to 3 pounds. So, there's a big difference in the size of what those look like. It's just a matter of, that whoever's in the market for purchasing, what are they looking for? What best suits what their eyes are looking for and their taste buds. So
Yeah, definitely. And it's funny because part of making tamales is really a lot of family tradition. And like I said, I can remember being 5 years of age and making tamales with my grandparent, my grandfather, my mother, my father, my siblings. And it's a beautiful tradition, really, because it brings everybody around the table. And as you can see, I've got some pictures up on the screen that show some of the process where I'm pureeing the actual chili, and there's the masa, and guess what time it is? It's tamale time, and there goes Ismael. There's a picture of you with your tamales. So I mean, it's really a beautiful tradition that brings families together. And if you've got family members who are willing to continue the tradition and spread that on, you really there's a picture of my family making the masa with everybody's hands involved. This is pre-pandemic, right? But it's funny how you know we as a people, we really get this tradition from Mexico. I mean, these are the traditions of Mexico. This is where it comes from. And like your tamales are called los tamales de mi mamá. Tell me why you named it that, and is it referring to you, Selma, or your mother?
No, yes, it is referring to me because that's how they they started sharing with their friends. Oh, my mom's tamales, my mom's tamales. So then my son came up with the title of Los Tamales de mi mamá.
Yeah, yeah. I know how that is. Definitely when you think of mothers and grandmothers and great grandmothers, you envision, the matriarchs of the families that make these great recipes and these great tamales. And I think that's part of who we are, who makes us as a people. I want to ask my producer here in the house, Jonathan Dent, because we always try to bring him in on the show to talk a little bit about what he sees as a non-Hispanic. So, Jonathan, tell me what are your thoughts about our show today and about the upcoming Tamale Taste Off?
Well, first of all, I think that every culture has an aspect of passing down recipes and the family recipe book and all that. I think that the Hispanic or Latino culture takes it to an extreme. I think that it's a fantastic tradition that is passed down. I'll be honest, I have never had a tamale, so
What?
I'll need to stop by. And
Okay, security.
He's giving me
security.
such a glare. Oh no.
But you never had a patito either, and I
I
had
had
to
never.
share that with you, right?
No, I had never had a petito before either. But I think the thing about the tamale taste off that I really want to see is you've told me stories about the pride that people take in their tamales to the point where it is upsetting when it doesn't make it or when it doesn't get the right response. And I think that much pride going into anything, let alone cooking, is maybe a little bit too much. But when you take that much pride in your cooking, it means that you've got a product that you can really that you should be proud of usually.
Yeah, you have no idea, brother. Well, you know, Angela Blanco, the president of the Civica, again, she's on here and she says, Selma Perez, you are a joy to listen to. I can feel your joy and love through the air. Thank you to you and your family for joining us. We welcome you all with open arms. And she asks, will you have a variety, pork, chicken, or vegan tamales?
We're planning on our specialty is red chili pork. So that's what we're going to have with us. We have made chicken and we are planning on coming up with some vegan. But at this point for the event, we will be having only the pork.
Yes, and pork is the main staple. The standard tamales consists of pork filling mixed with a tasty chili, red or green, sauce wrapped in a corn husk filled with dough called masa. But chicken fillings is also a favorite, and we have to make sure that we tell everybody that when you do get a tamale, you have to take it out of the corn husk wrap. I have seen where they've tried to actually, Jonathan's smiling over there because I think he was.
I probably would have made that mistake. Honestly,
I've seen it happen in real life. So, it does happen, but that's what this show's about, bringing that awareness to the masses. So thank you so much, Salma Perez and your son, Ismael, for being with us on Mi Gente on Air today. And Rudy and Narcisa and Cecil, they're saying we enjoy making our own, and our kids also make their own. We learned from Rudy's sister Millie and Irene when our kids were little. So it really is a family tradition that is happening across the Great Lakes Bay region. And if you need tamales this season, come to the 12th annual Tamale Taste Off December 18th at Newville Catholic High School from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. It has been a joy for us to share our traditions of tamales with you, the listeners, and thank you so much for tuning in for Mi Gente on Air. We'll see you next week. Hasta luego. Well, thank you, everybody, for the comments. We've got Conrad Rios. He says, you go kinfolk. Conrad, who lives over there on the north side of Saginaw. And we also have Marcela Martinez, who is from the Flint area. She says, my mom used to make tamales with raisins. Me and my sisters made some 2 weeks ago. So those sweet tamales, they're very popular. And I think we may have a tamale maker that's going to be making some sweet tamales as well. And I think they're going to be filled with pineapple. So, there's going to be a lot of tamale vendors at this event. And like I said, we've got confirmed 12 now. And I think we may probably by the time it rolls around in 2 weeks, we probably may have 1 or 2 more. And I don't know if we have the room. So, if you're really thinking about it and you're serious about entering the contest, please give me a call as soon as possible. But everybody, thank you so much for being in the room. Michael Cruz, who's going to be a tamale vendor, he says, great show. So we're looking forward to seeing Cruz Kitchen there as well. And Jonathan, my producer, has a comment as well.
I don't know if you covered this during the show because I had to run out and handle something. Have you announced who the celebrity judges are going to be? Has that been lined up yet, or
no?
Is it not announced yet? Okay,
we have not. But in the past, we've had like Sheriff Fettersfield, who had no idea whose tamales he was eating, and he got all kinds of tamales that day. And we had Veronica Horn from the Chamber of Commerce. We had a city council member. We may ask our city council members this year. So we haven't really discussed that, but it's in 2 weeks, so we got to make that decision soon. Did somebody call on that, or is that?
No, I was just curious.
Oh, you're curious. Okay. So Bridget Luby Staffolino, again, from Jolt Credit Union, thank you so much. Salma Perez, thank you. And Bridget says, thanks, Angela. So she's with us again. And Barb Antiveros says, my mother-in-law used to make sweet tamales. Also, her name was Mamie Antiveros. I used to love Mamie. I never did get her recipe. They were delicious. So again, it's such a family-oriented endeavor to make tamales during the Christmas season. And one of my great memories was, if you know me and you know my cousin Angela Blanco, she's the president of Civica. I actually can remember her under the Christmas tree way back when she was a baby girl. We're only 2 years difference, but I can remember. And I remember my mom coming in and wanting to see the new baby. She was born in August and it was Christmas. And mom placed tamales next to Mika as a baby under the Christmas tree. So adios, everybody. Thank you so much. We got to go. Thank you. Hasta luego.